Uh, Thank you, Shruti. Welcome, everyone. Good to see all of you, some of you again, some of you for the first time. Um, Welcome to this topic of international investing. I think it's a very interesting topic. As Shruti said, it's a niche subject at the moment. Not everybody is either able or interested or even knows how to do it. A lot of people feel intimidated. Oh, international investing, kaise karenge, kya hoga? So the purpose of today's discussion is really to demystify um, international investing. There are many ways to do it in India, and I'm going to spend as much time on how you can use InvestorAi to find good stocks. But I think before that, I need to spend time talking to you about how you can go about it. Okay. So for those of you who already have some experience, that's great. Please share it with us during the Q&A. For those of you who have no experience, I'm going to start with just the basics. Okay? So starting with the basics on international investing, it is actually not very different from any other kind of investing. So just bear that in mind. There is no difference between international investing and any other investing. You have to open a brokerage account, you have to move money into it, and then you have to find good stocks to buy. So this is what you do in the Indian market. This is exactly what you would do in the international market. The big difference is something called LRS, Limited Remittance Scheme, which is available for all Indian citizens. And there is a limit of $250,000 per person per year. Okay, I will talk a little bit more about it as I go forward. But let us first see, how do you open an account? Okay. Now, you have to have an account in the US, and I'm only talking US. Similar thing applies to Singapore, similar thing applies to UK or any other international location. But for purposes of today's discussion, I'm just going to focus the discussion on America, because it's the largest stock market, and that's where most people want to spend. So you have to open an account in the US. Now, you can go through an Indian brokerage platform like HDFC Securities, ICICI Securities, Kotak Securities, etc. So you can go through one of the big firms, or you can go through what I call agent firms. There is a firm called StockAl, there is a firm called Vested, and I think there's one other whose name I don't remember. These are intermediary firms who will help you open an account with a broker-dealer in the US. Or there is a third option that is emerging now, and I will again talk, this is where we are working our plans on, that can you open an account directly with the US broker-dealer? So let me explain it with a diagram. So these are the people. So there is an Indian broker-dealer, let's say it's ICICI Securities. There is an origination agent. Let's say this is StockAl or Vested, and there is a US broker-dealer, could be anyone, Charles Schwab, and so on and so forth. And this is your US dollar brokerage account. This is completely different from your Indian rupee brokerage account. Okay? So, sorry. So the first option is the circle which says 1. You go to an Indian broker-dealer who has an arrangement with an origination agent. So if you go to HDFC Securities, they have an arrangement with StockAl. Okay, so they will pass your request to StockAl. StockAl has an arrangement with a US broker-dealer called Drive Wealth, and they will open an account for you with Drive Wealth. Okay, but you have to, but your starting point is HDFC Securities. So that is one way to do it. The second way to do it is you can go to the StockAl website directly, and you can go and open an account through them. But again, they will open it up with the US broker-dealer. And the third option is you can go directly to the US broker-dealer. This is the option we in Bridgeweave are in favor of, because it cuts out all the intermediaries, it cuts out a lot of the unnecessary paperwork and time lags. It's the most efficient way to do it. We are in process of working with a broker-dealer in the US. We are technically integrating with them, and we should have this thing ready literally, 1 week or 10 days time. Okay, so then you can go directly to the US broker-dealer. But remember, you will be going directly to the US broker, and it will be your account, your money, and you own that account. Nobody else, including Bridge, will have anything to do with it. And I'd be happy to explain more as we go along. So once you open a US account, then you have to move money into it. And as I said before, the maximum permitted under LRS amount is $250,000 per year per person. So that means a family of 4 can transfer $1 million in 1 year if you have that liquid cash. Okay, it's up to you. You can transfer $5,000. You can transfer $10,000. It's again entirely up to you. The maximum limit is $250K. Now, the transfer will take place from your Indian bank account directly into your US broker account. Okay, so you have to pay attention to fees and exchange rates because these international transfers are not cheap. If you're making a one-off transfer, let's say $50,000, $100,000, then it's fine. It is what it is, and you've made the transfer. Then you don't have to worry about it. But if you're thinking of regular transfers, 10,000 a month, 5,000 a month, it will get very expensive. So just remember that in mind. Okay. So you'll have to think of a strategy of funding your broker account quite carefully before you actually start doing anything. Once the money is in, then you have to figure out what do you want to buy. And this is where InvestorAi comes in. In the US markets, I think you can buy mutual funds, you can buy ETFs, you can buy individual stocks. But please keep checking the latest list of permitted investments by RBI under the LRS scheme. Now, for purposes of today's discussion, we are going to be focusing on individual stocks and a little bit on ETFs, not on mutual funds. But obviously, you can move the money there. And if you want to buy a mutual fund or an index fund, which a lot of people won't do, it's very, very easy to do that. It's just a quick trade, and you can do that yourself. So now comes the subject of, okay, if I have to find something to buy in the international market, how do I find good stocks? Okay. So now this again is no different from identifying good stocks in the Indian market. So again, some of you may have seen this before. You'll have to ask yourself, what is a good stock? Is it a high growth stock? Is it a sunrise industry stock? Is it a low volatility stock? Is it a high dividend stock? Different people have different definitions. Okay, so you'll have to figure out what your definition is. My criteria is very simple. One is I must understand the fundamentals. So I must understand what the company is doing. I must understand the company's. The company must have good fundamentals, and I must have a good understanding of what the company does. And finally, it must be a good time. So, I may want to buy Apple, but if Apple is running at $137, I think it's too expensive. If it falls to $112, then I really want to buy. Okay, so it's a combination of a good company, a good knowledge of the company on my part, and good timing in the market. And when all these three come together, then basically you should be going for it, because that is a really, really good time to be buying something. Now, so how do we get started? And I'm going to show you, once I finish my slides, I'm going to show you how you can do all this on InvestorAi. You can find good companies, you get comfortable with what they do, you can wait for the right time to buy, and then wait for the right time to sell. And I'm going to talk you through how you can use InvestorAi quickly. So before I do that, I want to say something that all of you know is a big favorite phrase of mine, that it is not just AI, it is you and AI that really is the superpower. Okay, you is about having the knowledge and the discipline of investing in the markets. AI is about improving your batting average, giving you good ideas that you may not be aware of. And T is the leveraging the power of time. So, you can start small. You can start with $10,000, $5,000 if you want. But as long as you keep investing and keep compounding your returns, that makes it really, really, really powerful. People underestimate the power of time because a long term is, far off from our minds. But it is really when your knowledge, accompanied by what the machine is telling you through InvestorAI, and you use it over a period of time, that is the best way to produce the best kind of returns. Okay. So within InvestorAI, the beauty of investing internationally is that all the algos in InvestorAI are now available for you. So you'll be familiar with value investing and Alpha 330 equity from your experience with India, InvestorAI in India. We now, once you expand the coverage to global stocks, it is very easy to see international stocks exactly in the same way for value investing and Alpha 330. We have another one called Etf Investing that allows you to invest in ETFs in US and UK. And there is a very easy ETF finder that I would show you that you can use to find ETFs. Then we have something called New Age Themes, which is our curated themes of global stocks, which you can make your own basket. And you can actually select your own basket and you can go and buy it. Okay. Then there is an Alpha 330 ETF, which gives you the same Alpha 330, 3% return in 30 days, a signal, but for an ETF rather than a single stock. So if you want more diversified exposure, but similar kind of alpha returns, then this is a great sort of algo for you. Finally, there's technicals and fundamentals. Some of you may be familiar with this. It applies to international markets just as easily as it applies to any other markets. For those of you coming for the first time, I want to explain how our algos work. These are machine learning models that use the best data sources in the world. They analyzed over 900 pieces of data every day, both technical and fundamental, for every security in every market every day. So this is a lot of work. Our algos do, about 800 million calculations every day. And they do that to identify potential breakout ideas with highest levels of accuracy that you can find. So they're really strong algorithms. And if I just, and also you've used them for the Indian market, most of you, and they work just as well on the international market. So a quick recap. How do you get started? You open an account, you transfer money, and then you start trading. Okay, opening an account, you can do that. You can go through an Indian brokerage platform, or you can go through one of the intermediary companies, or you can go directly to the US broker dealer. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to show you some of the things on InvestorAI that will help you use some of the features to do what you need to do. Okay, just bear with me a second. I'm going to share my phone screen. Okay, should be there. Okay. I'm seeing some really, really interesting questions, but I will take them as soon as I finish. So let's go into InvestorAI. By the way, I hope all of you have seen the new homepage. You can, the very start, you can search for stocks. You can pick any stock. So if you want to pick Apple, it shows you Apple, and then it shows you a screen that you'll be familiar with. It gives you details on Apple. It gives you price chart. It gives you price insights, past insights in the last 12 months. So there was an Alpha 330 insight in August that delivered 4.4%. There are similar stocks to Apple that you might be interested in, and it gives you some ideas, and it gives you a comparison of Apple with the market. So this is a new thing we have added on searching stocks. Then there are ideas. You can go directly to the algos. This is your watch list, and you can see all the watch list. The blue circles are where there is a signal, and so on. You can monitor ETFs. I haven't monitored any. There is one basket I'm monitoring. If I look at the monitored basket, this is a robotics basket, and it shows me I have these 4 stocks in my basket. I have new stocks that meet my criteria. I have some stocks that have fallen below the criteria, and I can make these changes if I want to make these changes. So it's quite a powerful kind of a feature, your watch list. And then there are some quick links, and you can join our community. By the way, community is a new thing that we have added. See at the bottom right. If you click on that, it takes you to the community, and there are all kinds of discussion threads and things that you can join. Going forward, community is where we will post most things. So please watch that space. Now, the first thing you've got to do is got to look at the menu, top right, and make sure that your preferences are set to cover UK, US, Europe, whatever markets you want. Let me just switch off UK. I will go only with the US market for now, since we are talking about US. And then you can, as always, select the sectors that you like. Then let's go to Ideas Corner. Let's take value investing. Now, these are all the companies that are there. Let's pick a leisure stock. So I don't know who EA is, Electronic Arts. Okay, so this is now an undervalued stock. As always, you're familiar with the format. It's trading at the first percentile, so really, really low value. Valuation, rather, relative valuation. The sector rank is very good at 62. It's a pretty good rank. And future outlook is what is pulling it down slightly, but valuation is good. Analysts like the stock, and capital structure is great. And backtesting is reasonable, 4.7% in 3 months. That's not a bad return. And as always, you can go to live info and you can check more on Electronic Arts. So again, exactly as things work on Indian stocks, it works on international stocks. So I'm not going to spend too much time on value investing. Let's go to ETF investing. This is an interesting one. Now, at the start, you can say, I want ETFs in UK or US. So let's take US. There are 1,134 ETFs that we provide. There are, of course, many more, 10,000 ETFs, but we have pre-selected a group. And then you can select you want asset class, geography, or special. So let's take geography. Let's say I want an emerging market ETF. So I go rest of the world, and then I go next. And then I can select my ranking criteria. So I want 3-month returns. And now it shows me all the ETFs that are there. And it shows me the 3-month returns, last 12 months returns. It sort of ranked them in the order of 3-month returns. And I say, okay, show me details of this. So I can select ARCA-EIS, and I can pick this. And it shows me an ETF score of 50, which is kind of okay. It shows me the familiar spider chart comparison of ETF with the index. It shows me the geography, it shows me the AUM, it shows me performance, and it shows me the expense ratio. So it gives me all the details that I would want to know about the ETF, and I can decide what I want to do with it. So this is ETF investing. Some of you have seen new age themes. And again, these are international stocks. They're all international stocks. I'm not going to go into details of each of them. It's very easy navigation and self-explanatory. Alpha 330 equity is familiar to all of you. Let me go to Alpha 330 ETF. It is doing exactly the same things for ETF, saying, it is showing me ETFs that can deliver 3% return in 30 days. So let's take one of the live signals, which is a growth ETF called VUG. Now it is telling me that the signal strength is high. This is a Vanguard index fund. The idea came on 21st of September, so 2-3 days ago. It has returned 2.1% already. And here is historic performance. So it has beaten the index both times the signal came up. So this looks like a good option. You can look at constituents of this ETF. So overall rank is on the 66th percentile, which is not bad. Future outlook, great. Consensus view, great. Valuation, not so great. Expense ratio is really very good. And these are the top 5 holdings: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and Alphabet. So this tells me what kind of ETF this is. I can look at a snapshot of the ETF. So this is a US ETF with large cap growth. So it sounds like a good one to me. 165 billion in size. So this is a large ETF. 165 billion is very serious amount. Expense ratio 0.04%, negligible. This is very good. 1-year performance 40%. This looks like a really strong ETF on which there is a high signal. So, so this is a very interesting ETF. So I want to monitor it, and you can put it in your watch list. So this is how Alpha 330 ETF works. I won't go into swing trade because that's only India. Quarterly results, technicals, fundamentals, again, you are familiar with. But let's just look at fundamentals as an example. If you want to look at bullish signals, you want the low PE ratio amongst the peer group. You can set only US because that's the only market I've selected. And let's just take banks. And then there is a signal on these 3, 4, 5 banks: Flagstar, Mr. Cooper, Penny Mac, etc., etc. And you can pick any of them and see, what. You can look at Mr. Cooper Group, and it gives you all the details. So all this information is invaluable in the international market if you want to trade internationally. And again, you know what InvestorAi is all about. We are about giving you the best quality information and letting you make the decision. So what we are really doing is, giving you a lot of information on international markets in very much the same way that you get on local markets, the domestic Indian market. So, the format and the screens will be very familiar to you. They're just using a different market. So,
actually, while you're on that, Sanket has actually just asked, expense ratio, low to high and near 100%. Can you explain more on this?
Okay, so Sanket, let's go back to the ETF we were talking about, PUG. Okay, and let me go to the snapshot. So expense ratio, the lower number, the better. Okay, so 0.4% means that on a $100 investment, you are paying 4 cents as your cost, which is an incredibly low number. Now let us compare this to any other one. So let's take iBuy. I don't know what their expense ratio is. Now here expense ratio is 0.65%. So on a $100 investment, you're paying 65 cents as your as expenses. Now in mutual funds, these expenses can go as much as 1.5% or even 2% in some cases. In hedge funds, they can go to 2.5%, 3%. But in ETFs, they tend to be very low. And you saw the difference. It's 0.65% in one case, 0.05% in the other case. So lower the expense ratio, the better it is. Basically what it says is the fund manager is very cost efficient, and the cost that is being allocated to the ETF is very little, which means your returns look better because the cost ratio goes to depress the returns. Okay, so I want to just mention one more thing before I open up for questions. And that is that I spoke to you about how to, there are 3 ways of opening an account. Okay, so let me share my screen. If you remember my discussion, there were 3 ways of, no, can we stop the poll, please? There are 3 ways of opening an account. One is to go through an Indian broker-dealer. Second is going through an intermediary agent. The third is going directly to a US broker-dealer. So we are in the process of tying up with a US broker dealer. Okay. So if theoretically you had an account with that broker dealer, you could trade directly from within InvestorAi. Okay. Now that's a very, very interesting capability. It is not live as yet. We are working very hard on making it live. What I would like to say is that I am, one second, just share my screen again so that you see the screen. So we are extending a special invitation to no more than 3 to 5 people to participate with us in a pilot on international investing. Okay, where we will, our arrangement with this US broker dealer, it's called Alpaca. That's the name, you can look it up. We will be fully integrated with Alpaca. Okay, which means if you have an account with Alpaca and you have InvestorAi and you have moved money into the Alpaca account, you will be able to trade immediately with one click from the app. Okay, that's what we are working towards. The structure framework will be ready in about 1 week, 10 days time. We want to work with just 3 to 5 people who are interested in US markets, are already subscribers with InvestorAi, and are willing to sort of be part of the pilot program. Of course, there's much more detail on that. But if you're interested, please write to us at support@bridgebeef.com. Contact us, give us your details, tell us you're interested, and then we can talk about further details. We can have a separate meeting in a smaller group to talk about this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and we are now open for questions.
Yeah. So everyone, please send us your questions. I've got just a couple of them. So and we answered one when Akshay was, but please do send us your questions. Akshay, Vinod has a question. So I think he was on the app when you were showing them what to do. So he says, I have selected the US geography, and in the Alpha 330, the stock called Monolithic Power says signal high. But in the similar stock visual, it is in the declining extreme. How to interpret this versus stock on the improving side? He's confused because he says monolithic power is also recommended by Alpha 330.
Yeah. Sarthak, will you?
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good observation. And typically it happens when a stock does a very big spike up. So what happens is this is a momentum strategy, and we evaluate every single script every day, and based on the likelihood of it outperforming, we rank them. So monolithic power, if you see in the last 5-6 days, it's gone up like 6%. So what happens is, even if the signal is high, the system finds better companies that have lower risk coefficient in terms of coming back or having a negative swing. So that's why it is deteriorating. Remember, the ones which are at the top will decay quicker because there are more companies competing to become number one.
So basically, once the stock has delivered what it's supposed to do, and in the case of monolithic power, it has delivered more than that, then the likelihood of signal continuing to do that is very low. And that's why it shows as declining. But like I said, if you wanted to buy monolithic power, I would recommend you do your research on the company as well. And you form your own view that, is this a good company? Its price has gone up already. Do I believe it's likely to keep going up? If you like the company and you're not happy with the price point, I would suggest the good way to do it is to start put it on your watch list by clicking on monitor it. If you monitor it, it goes into your watch list. Then you can set upper limits and lower limits to get alerted when the price moves to the level that you are comfortable with.
And specifically in case of monolithic power, we had two insights. One was on 7th August that did 7.7%. And the second one was active on 7th September, which is done close to around 4.5%. So obviously, that's why you see a slight decay in the strength.
Basically, it's done what it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Sriram's question. He says it's not specifically for folks like us in India, but can someone who is on an F1 visa in the US, presently employed in the US on the OPT scheme, invest in US stocks?
The answer is yes. If you are a resident in the US and you're not a tax resident, so you haven't gone there for 3 weeks or something like that. If you're employed in the US, you're working in the US, you have employment status there, you file your taxes there, then of course you can invest in US stocks. Once you come back to India, then you can't, except under the LRS program.
Okay. Raj has a question. Says if consensus view is good and the valuation is low, should we go for that stock?
So, okay, so there are two ways you can answer this. See, valuation low in real terms in investment is what you should always prefer, everything else being the same, right? But if you're looking at the score in InvestorAi, which is a grade from 0 to 100, if a low score means it is overvalued, okay? So the way you should, typically the companies that have very good consensus rating and very poor valuations are like Tesla, the companies that are very highly, momentum driven. So look, if you're a momentum trader, investor, then by all means look at it. But if you're more of buy and hold and everything, then, you should look at better valuations.
Okay. Actually, I've got one here. They say what part of one's portfolio, if they're just starting out and you're starting to focus on international stocks, how should they approach investing?
So let me answer give you my answer, and Sarthak, you can jump in if you like. So look, it is all stock investing is high risk. Okay, it's higher risk because you're the one managing your portfolio. So the first allocation I would think of is how much in stocks, how much in cash, how much in real estate, and so do your high level allocation of your overall assets. Then within your investment portfolio, how much should go to international versus how much should be in India depends on your experience and interest. Okay, I would not start with a big number. See, the good part is you can always put some very small. You can put $5,000. You can put $10,000. Okay, awesome. And these are relatively small numbers. The beauty about the stock in US stock markets that most broker dealers, and Alpaca, who we are tying up with, is one of those, will allow you to trade in fractional shares, which is not possible in India at the moment. So which means you want to buy 1/3 of Tesla, you can buy 1/3 of Tesla. If you want to say, I want to spend, only $100 buying Apple, then you can buy 0.7% of Apple. You can say that Amazon at 3,200 is very, very expensive. I only want to put $500 in Amazon. You can do that. So that gives you massive flexibility. So even a small amount to start with is useful, and you get comfortable with it before you start, investing any serious amount of money. The problem with the small amount is that your costs become very high. So some of these intermediary companies charge as much as $9 or $12 per trade. Okay, then if you're transferring money back and forth in small amounts, then the transfer fees will become very high. So at small amounts, the fees become very expensive. The reason we like Alpaca is because the trading cost is zero. You can buy fractional shares. It is relatively easy to open an account. And of course, that is why we chose to integrate with them in a very tight way. So if you have an account with Alpaca and you have InvestorAi, there's nothing more you need. You can trade just as well as anybody else. Sorry, Sarthak, anything to add?
Yeah, that's you actually put it on the nail on the head. I just want to add two things to this. One is the idea of diversification. look, the thing is, if you have a substantial portfolio in India, you looked at the valuation. This is the most expensive we've ever been in our markets. And it's important that you look beyond the 300, 400 securities in India. So in the US, if you go, you have 2,000 other options. There are themes that, new age themes, etc., that you might not find in India. So it's basically like what you want to invest in. Like, for example, Akshay, if he wants to invest in COVID vaccine, I think a lot of it would go to the US, right? Because there are a lot of manufacturers there. So it's about choice. And the second thing that I want to highlight is what Akshay just mentioned on fractional shares. So that will allow you to create very balanced portfolios without actually having to, worry about sector allocation because I want this stock and this stock is expensive. And there is no minimum. So if you can start with $1,000, you can start with $1,000. There's one more cool thing is you don't even have to do any paperwork. It is completely automated. So within 10 minutes, you can get your account activated, 10 to 15 minutes. And once you're ready, InvestorAi, you click one button and it's exactly the same, like how you buy Indian stocks, you can buy US stocks and so on.
In fact, it's going to be even easier than India in some ways, because the direct integration that we are creating with the US platform is really aimed at, minimizing all kinds of things. So if you have bought something through InvestorAi on the Indian market, you know that once you click on the trade button, you will see a bunch of Indian brokerage houses. Then you have to pick one, and then you have to put your trade through. In US, the US one is a lot simpler because we have designed it. We're not sort of integrating with small case or something.
Purushottam actually has just asked us that exact question. He asked us, he wanted to know what the exact name of the US brokerage company is, which is Alpaca, and the spelling is yeah. So Purushottam, I've also put it on the chat. ALPACA.
ALPACA. Okay. Yeah. Good. So I think we should, if there are no further questions, we can draw this to a close, Shruti, or
yeah, we can. Just the last one, if you can just tell Sriram, he just says he's telling us and the group, interactive brokers have now removed their minimum activity fee, he says.
Yeah. So Interactive Brokers is a great platform. I have my personal portfolio is with Interactive Brokers. They're there in 33 countries. It's an old company. So you see some legacy things that are not ideal, but it's a very good firm. They're quite active in India. And I believe they have a fully digital way that you can open an account with Interactive Brokers for international trading. So that's another way to do that directly. So going directly to US brokers is also a very real possibility. And I see a message from Sriram saying very easy to open an account with them here in India. That's good to know. So guys, there are a lot of options. You have to decide what you want to do, how much you want to allocate. But I would urge for people who are interested in markets to start dipping their toe in the international waters. Today it is 250,000, which is quite a lot of money actually. It's 250,000 a year. So in 10 years, you can put 2.5 million if you have that kind of money. And the US market has much more choice. It has much more variety. It's a much deeper market. You can invest in some of the household names that you're familiar with, Airbnb, Apple, Google, Facebook. But there are thousands of names you've never heard of that you will never hear of unless you have InvestorAi by your side, identifying good companies and good ideas. So thank you very much for your time. And please write to us if you're interested in participating in that pilot. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. See you next week, and do join the community, and we could answer all these questions you have on the international way of investing in the community. So thank you, everyone. And we have a good offer running. So do check out our, the email that will hit you in an hour from now. Thank you.